at the time we felt powerless. And then we carry that powerlessness into the future. And then we continue that narrative of that thing is the reason why I'm not getting things in life. And I got to keep undoing it and fixing it and examining it. And then you're just wasting your whole life looking backwards and not saying, okay, I got to take responsibility and create something new and use all the things that happen to me as inspiration, maybe to help others. Hello, welcome to another episode of Soul Sessions with Creative Mind. I'm Deborah Barrett Maldonado. I'm here with Dr. Rob Maldonado.
Great to be here. Welcome back.
And we have a great topic today. It's called How to Take Responsibility for Your Life.
That's right.
And we're continuing our series on spiritual psychology. But before we begin and dive in, I want to remind you all to subscribe to us. If you're listening to us on and watching us on YouTube, there's a little button here in the corner. Click and subscribe. If you're listening to us on one of the podcast services, make sure you subscribe so that you do not miss any of these juicy episodes to expand your mind, expand your life, and get home before dinner.
That's right.
So let's talk about how to take responsibility for your life. And it's really one of the biggest pushbacks we get from our students and people that do our work. Immediately, it's, wait a minute, I am not responsible for this, this, and this. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big challenge, no doubt, but it's such an important one because no one else can do this for you. Mm-hmm. You have to do it yourself. No one can accept responsibility for your own life except you. And let's first talk about why that's important. What does that do?
Well, I would love to say a Sigmund Freud quote.
Yes.
And Sigmund Freud said, most people do not really want freedom because freedom involves responsibility. And most people are frightened of responsibility. Yeah. And so what we are talking about here is that the whole personal development industry, even the mental health industry, there's a lot of talk about blaming the parents, blaming our childhood, blaming the past, ex-husband or bad relationships, toxic people, narcissists, they're all out there ruining our lives. And there's nothing about taking responsibility because what you're doing is you're pushing that power away. Mm-hmm. And when we think about Eastern philosophy, they say that the true self can never be harmed, can never be hurt, can never be damaged. So what we're trying to do is really operate on such a surface level and really like we're kind of just rearranging the furniture of our past experience. We're giving all that power and we're not able to like choose our future because, that happened to me, so I can't have this, or that person is in the way of getting this thing or this goal I want.
Yeah.
And that's not a powerful place to be.
Yeah, so let's go back to what Ziggy said. Sigmund Freud. So he's equating it with power, mm-hmm. and rightly so.
And freedom.
Yes, and freedom. Why would blaming others, first of all, take away our power? Whenever you project, whenever you say, something out there caused me harm, you're essentially giving that experience the power. You're saying that experience is more powerful. The people involved in that experience have the power to hurt me.
They have the power to take something from me. They have the power to stop me from living my fullest life. And yes, we know there's people that do terrible things, but if we give them the power to stop us, we're never free.
Yes.
Because you can't undo the past. You can't go back and, punish the past. So we're kind of trying to blame them. And I think the ego has this defense mechanism. It's always looking backwards versus looking forward.
Yes. So it certainly appears that way. Mm-hmm. Let's say we acknowledge that it appears as if those experiences hurt us or took something from us. Mm-hmm. that they are powerful. And indeed, they are very powerful. But if we ask what is the source of their power, it is our own mind. It cannot be anything else.
That's really profound.
The mind, your mind is the one that is giving those experiences the power. And that understanding returns the power to you, reclaims it, reintegrates it into its proper place, which is your awareness, your consciousness, your mind. Your mind is the source of that power.
So I want to just, there's a devil's advocate here that comes into play, is that, so do we blame ourselves? If we can't blame other people for our problems, do we blame ourselves? You know, a lot of people talk about creating your life, and you can create your life. So did I create those experiences? Did I attract that abuser? Did I pick that parent that was critical? There's all this talk about, you know, self-blame, and that's not what we're talking about when we take responsibility.
Well, let's say yes and no.
Okay.
From the ego perspective, from the individual limited perspective of our mind, which is the ego, let's say that it's our small thinking, our small I. It appears that way, right? That we're saying, I created the mess in my life, or the problems or the suffering that I experienced. Somehow I was the one involved in that. But if we look at it, or even if we just think it through a little bit further, what does it mean to accept responsibility, even for the difficult things in our lives? Then we start to see that, that means that if I'm the creator, if I'm the one calling the shots, that means I can change it. That means I can create something different, something new. So it requires a little bit of courage to accept that responsibility. Yes, Jung says transformation requires great moral courage because it requires us to accept the good and the bad.
So are you saying that if someone experiences like a, you know, terrible childhood or experience, that there's some element of them that was a participant in that, because something can't randomly happen to you? And that the thing is, you're not conscious of it. Right. And it could be a pattern of abuse that's been passed through generation upon generation, and you're born into a situation. So I'm just curious of how that's a question we would get a lot.
That's a beautiful question. Yeah, because it requires us to rethink what the I in that situation is.
The ego, yeah.
Yeah, because if we think about the I as the doer and the experiencer, that's true to some extent, but to a limited extent. The reality, what we understand from epigenetics, from genetics, from social psychology, how behavior is conditioned in all of us, and how it is expressed in this intergenerational pattern. Then we understand that the idea of the individual acting out of free will is a false one. The person that harm. Exactly. The people that acted, that appeared to hurt us, they were simply acting out of their own past conditioning, out of those forces that any one of us in their position would have acted the same way.
If you weren't conscious and aware, if you weren't self-aware, you would repeat.
Yes.
Like if you're conditioned to act out of anger because that's in your DNA, or you've been suppressing it and then you act out of it, but you're not conscious, then the person on the other side, what is their role in that?
That's right.
Their role is that they were in that space for some reason, or
they play out their parts unconsciously, not out of free individual will, but out of a conditioning, an expression of genetic and epigenetic potential.
So are you talking about the victim or the
both?
Okay.
Both, because we're all caught up in these patterns. If you notice, families play out these patterns, cultures, societies play out these long-held patterns, and change comes through individuals that accept responsibility for their own life.
In their own mind.
And then decide differently, right? They decide because that taking back the power gives you the decision and the power of decision to choose something different.
So let's say there wasn't like a person involved as far as like harming them, but a tragedy. So like their child dying, their parent dying, they, they're in war zones. What about that as far as creating and taking responsibility?
Yes.
I'm asking these difficult questions that we get.
Yeah, perfect, because that's what people ask, and that's what they want to know. So the answer is simply this, that you're responsible for giving those experiences meaning. So what it means is up to you. You're given freedom, complete freedom, like Freud says, to choose what that experience means to you.
Viktor Frankl.
That's right. So if you choose to make it something terrible, something that hurts you, that you're a victim, that life is terrible and will always be terrible, you're recreating that. You're essentially calling that up continuously, and you're using that as the filter through which you see your life.
A good example of this just in business is the pandemic. A lot of business owners are shut down, and they were like, well, I'm not going to, I guess I'm can't do business the same way, and poor me, and now I'm, got to do something else, or the kind of out of my control. But then a lot of people that were successful, and a lot of people had lots of success during the pandemic because they were innovative. So it's not, the event itself can present it as an opportunity or a curse in every situation.
That's it.
And so, and then also too, I love what you say, and I just want to bring this up, is that when our parents were younger, maybe they were in their 20s, maybe they're struggling financially, they were under a lot of pressure, maybe they didn't love each other, and there's a lot of stuff that we didn't see as kids, or their parent conditioned them. And so when we see that person that was in their 20s, like scrapping it through and losing their temper or being depressed or whatever it was, we kind of make them like a set fixed image in our mind. And then when we grow up, we're in our 40s and 30s, and we're looking at our parent as if they were still 20. We're still like holding that picture of that harm or whatever that happened, and that person is fixed. And you said to me once that person no longer exists. And I'd love for you to explain that a little more. That concept that you said, I thought that was so mind-blowing when you said that.
Yeah, if we understand memory and look at how memory works in the mind, it's a beautiful way of recording our experiences and holding on to them. And it's designed for survival. In other words, it's designed to give us a record of what we found to be useful, good, nourishing, nurturing, etc., and to also push away or understand, identify what was not good for us, what was harmful, what was painful, what was abrasive to us. So it works really well in childhood because it gives us a record of what do I want to move towards and what do I want to stay away from. Except that it's not a true record of reality.
Of a long-term reality. It was kind of like a short-term survival.
It's
like
an
in
interpretation.
That moment. Yeah.
It's an interpretation of what is useful for our survival. And that picture of what is useful for our survival, if we never augment it, if we never update it, it remains in our unconscious mind for the rest of our lives. And we operate from that assumption that the world is like the way we experience our parents, that the mother is either critical or nurturing or beautiful or great or supportive or
abandon them.
Yes, all those things. And it's not a good way to live because most of us received a mixed message about what's possible, who we are, all those things, in a very kind of an emotional sense. So our memory recorded the experience of emotion of those parents that they were in their 20s and 30s, right? Our parents were young at that time. And that's the image that we carry for the rest of our lives. And that plays into the way we do relationships, the way we do success.
I was just going to say that. Yeah. It's a projection. Then we project that like old image of that person in that snapshot of a moment as this is how I deal with matter, how the material world, which is the mother, and how I deal with the unseen, my faith, my will, my mind through the father and sense of power. And so we have these fixed ideas, and then we carry them. And then for me, I know working on myself exhaustingly for so many years, like going back, every workshop was about heal your relationship with your father, heal your relationship with the mean boss, and heal your wounds. And it was just after a while, it's like it's a lot of blame, and then the whole forgiveness thing. I forgive this person, and then you're just so wrapped up in the past that I didn't have time to really say, well, who am I outside of this? Who am I? Okay, that was the old me. Like, what do I want to create in a relationship? Yeah. Who do I want to be in a relationship? And we just keep picking apart the past, and then, well, that's the reason why I don't have a relationship, or that's the reason why I'm not making money. That's the reason why I don't have confidence. Yeah. That's the reason why I'm angry all the time, or I have this illness because of this situation. And I mean, we can go on and on and on, and there really is. So what do you, like, I remember one time you're like, what are we going to do with all this stuff that happened to us? How are we going to like fix it all? We can't. And the only thing we can do is in the moment, take responsibility and say, what can okay, those things happen to me. I understand it come from conditioning. I understand I got conditioning from it, but I'm not locked in by that. Yeah. And when we take responsibility, we say, the past does not have power over me. My ego may have been conditioned, but I am not my ego. I am something greater. And no matter what happened to me, I am more powerful than anything that happened to me. At the time, we felt powerless. And then we carry that powerlessness into the future. And then we continue that narrative of that thing is the reason why I'm not getting things in life. And I got to keep undoing it and fixing it and examining it. And then you're just wasting your whole life looking backwards and not saying, okay, I got to take responsibility, pack up my bag, pull up my big girl pants, and let's go and create something new. And use all the things that happened to me as inspiration, maybe to help others who've gone through that. And get yourself out of it so you can help others. I mean, everything that happened to us can be useful and can be an opportunity, even tragedies, don't you think?
Especially tragedies. Mm-hmm. Pain and suffering is a great motivator. Mm-hmm. But let's go back to then projection, because projection is that idea that the power is out there. Mm-hmm. Essentially, we're projecting. And it's a powerful ego defense, essentially, because it kind of gives us some space, right? It lets us off the hook temporarily, that we say, if the power is out there, I'm not responsible for what happens to me and for my life and how it turns out, right? There are all these powerful forces out there that determine my fate. Taking the courage, or having the courage to take back that power, then restores the true source of the power, which is your mind. Now, how do we do that? How do we get to that point? Well, first we have to kind of think it through. What is the nature of this experience that I'm having? What are those memories made out of? Are they real, or are they interpretations, like we're saying? Are they kind of constructs that are useful for our survival, but we've outgrown, and we need to now take the reins of our own life, take the reins of our destiny? So definitely that, right? We need to take the reins of our own destiny.
I love that.
And make real choices. And it begins with that accepting full responsibility. And it's hard, yes. It's hard to accept that we had a hand in everything that happened to us to some extent.
And there's no other way to have power, because as long as there's one little like addendum that says, I take responsibility for all the good things I've created, and in spite of all the things, but I don't take responsibility for this. You're not fully in it, and you're not fully, like, there's always, it's almost like a leaky bucket. There'll be a little hole that no matter how much power you get and you create in the world, it'll still have a little leak there, a little power leak, because you're still like tethering yourself to something in the past or someone in the past that you're still giving power to.
Yes. And when we start to see the nature of projection, then it works like a mirror. Because if we're projecting our assumptions of what reality is and what's possible for us in that reality, then all we have to do is look at what is our reality, what is showing up for us. What are the things that I see as potential, as possibility, or lack of? What lack do I see in my life? All those things reflecting back to us are projection. So we're seeing it essentially in living color. It's showing us what exactly our mind is on what is our life and what is our potential. If we start to read it as that, then it's very instructive. So I don't have to wonder, do I see potential in my life or do I see lack? I just look at my bank account. I just look at what my social situation is. Do I see opportunity or do I see lack of opportunity? All that is my own assumption, my own unconscious assumptions, my own past conditioning. So now that gives it up, that gives it away essentially, because if I understand that, then all I have to do is treat it as what it is, right? That it's reflecting my own mind. So what do I want to do with that?
So for example, when I was in the corporate world and I was thinking, I want to do something else, but I really didn't have like an idea. And so my mind was reflecting, there's really nothing out there for me, or like kind of confusion. But then when I got clear, I wanted to help people, at first I was just doing energy work because I was like, oh, this is really cool. I want to do this. And I started feeling this sense of in me. It was almost like all these other things started showing up. And so it's almost like you're going to see your conditioning at first. And then there's going to be a little sliver, like there's this higher self that's kind of showing you this little drop of possibility. And then the more you work with your mind, in Jung's term, individuate, where you move out of the ego conditioning and you're really becoming more self-aware, you start to see more of those shiny glimmers of opportunity. And so you're going to see like half and half for a while. And then all of a sudden your whole world you evolve into seeing, wow, look at all the possibilities in my life. Look at all the wonderful things I can have. But in the beginning, it feels like we have blinders on and we're only seeing our conditioning. And that's why it's important to do our inner work. That's why it's important to work with our mind, because our mind is showing us right in front of us where we are, and to take responsibility instead of projecting and saying, see, there's no opportunity out there. You say, wait a minute. My mind is seeing no opportunity. Let me shift my mind. Let me go inside. And that's what our work is all about, is about going inside. And a lot of it you're not conscious of. It's not just thinking positive or visualizing something different, which helps. We have to get into what's deeper in our unconscious that we can't see. That is reflecting out there like in plain sight, but we don't know how to read it because we think that's out there and that's not reflective of the mind.
Yeah, you're right. The results that we see are kind of the fruit of the tree, and the roots are in the unconscious mind. But if we see the fruit, we can kind of deduce what the roots are, right? If you see an orange, for example, you know that it comes from an orange tree. That's the same principle, that whatever we see as the fruits of our labor, the results of our life, that's showing us the root, right? Or it's pointing to what the root is. And the root is always in our mind, in our unconscious mind most of the time. But can we make it conscious? Absolutely. If we do self-inquiry and if we do understand that principle that we are the cause, the mind is the cause of our life. So how do we do this in everyday life? you start with the things that trigger you or that push back to you.
Or things that make you afraid or get you to stop.
That's it.
Or the things you complain about. I wish this was different or that was different. And if that thing was only different, I would be successful. Or if there were more available men on Tinder, I would be more successful. I would find that love, that kind of thing that you're projecting your power out there.
Yes, that's right. Whatever you feel limits you, whatever you feel as those blocks that people talk about, that something's blocking me. Nothing's blocking you except your own mind.
You're blocking yourself.
But you use it to go inward, to ask, where's the root of that, right? And it's always in your own mind. Therefore, you're going to find it, but you're going to find it within you. Once you find it within you, once you make that unconscious conscious, you become aware of it, it no longer has power over you. Then you have the choice. You can choose, what do you want it to be? What do you want your relationships to be about? What do you want your work to be about? What do you want your financial status to be about? All that is your choice. And that realization is a powerful one because it means you're completely free, like Freud says. That will give you freedom to choose who you are and what your life is about.
I think what's really important too for me and my journey is I did a lot of this self-inquiry on my own and trying to self-examine. But when I hired a coach, it's almost like they can see the possibilities that you can't see yet. That little glimmer, they kind of light up the glimmer in you. Like they're like shining. They're like a reflection of your potential. Because maybe they're further along than you or living in possibility. So they kind of it's almost like a transmission of waking up your inner self to see those possibilities. And I really think that it's so important. Everyone should have a coach because it really is very helpful. It's the modern practice of having a guru, having someone, not this wiser person that knows everything, but someone who knows the mind that can help you see those things, help you read the world, help you stop getting caught up in it and catch you so you can almost like cultivate the discipline to start working with your mind and then retrieving and reading the world and seeing your own, taking responsibility. It's such a powerful thing. Coaches aren't supposed to heal you or do any technique on you to like magically clear things. What they're doing is a real great coach, like our Jungian coaches, help you shine your own light. They like reflect your own light so that you can see who you really are in your true magnificence and all that possibility and get you out of that habit of thinking that this is the reason why I'm stuck and I'm always going to be stuck and I have to blame it on this thing. They can help you examine those thoughts, examine those feelings and get you to see a new perspective where your ego won't do it. It'll just kind of justify and keep you stuck in a circle. And the coach is kind of bringing in that light that is reflective of your light. They're not giving you light. They're reflecting your light and helping you on your way to see that. Isn't that beautiful?
That's beautiful. So now we read Freud's quote in a different light. So he says, most people do not really want freedom because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. But remember, if you're willing to accept responsibility for your life, then you choose, you have the choice then to change it. Yeah. That's the freedom and that's the power.
I always say when you invest in a coach, you're betting on yourself to win because it's an investment. It's something you're taking responsibility for, and you're saying, I know I have it in me. It's that confidence, and you may not know how you're going to get there, but that investment in yourself, in personal growth, in your vision, in your dreams is actually confirming inside, somewhere inside, I'm betting on myself. I know I can make my dreams come true. I know it sounds so fluffy, but it's like having the relationship, having the success, having the health I want, having the things in life that make me, even just being happy. I know that's in me, and I am betting on myself because I trust that deep within me, there's something powerful and amazing that can overcome any obstacle.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Great conversation. We will continue our series on spiritual psychology. I hope you enjoyed today. Don't forget to subscribe. Click on the button here in the corner if you're watching us on YouTube so you do not miss an episode, and continue your journey to really becoming your true self and being happy in your life.
See you next time.
All right. Take care.